Later in the season to Moscow in July, the Red Bull Ring in Austria, the Nürburgring, Imola, and then back to Hockenheim. There's the street race at Pau as well in the middle of all that. So the drivers coming up to the grid, and this time it's going to be Esteban Ocon that starts the race on pole position. Felix Sorales having a pretty decent first run. There he is, finishing in 7th place and getting some good early points on the board, having joined Team Westtech and looking to make up for what was a disappointing season for him last year. He joins Team Westtech and looks pretty good. There's Richard Goddard, who was the star of the first race. As I say, he got caught up in damage. It was possibly avoidable. He got tangled up with a failed move on Felix Rosenqvist. Had to go to the pits to change his nose cone. Then got a second chance when the safety car came out for another incident, bunched them all up and did some splendid overtaking to get himself back up the order from the back. He ended up finishing in 14th place. There is the Brazilian driver, Gustavo Menezes. Sorry, the American driver, Gustavo Menezes, who comes from Puerto Rico. Races for the United States, the Dallara, as they all run. Volkswagen engine powering him along. Volkswagen, Mercedes, Neil Brown Engineering, Renault, all out there. Felix Rosenqvist, who coming into this season, many people will have pinned as a favourite, having finished second in the championship last year, and a very close second in the championship. But the Swede has had a disappointing weekend so far. Took 11 race wins last year, 7 other podium finishes, but Felix had disappointing qualifying sessions and was only 9th in the race earlier on. There's his teammate, Lucas Auer, the Austrian driver, who had a pretty decent first race, fairly lonely time of it, finished in 5th place in the end. He's only 19 years of age, from St Johann, and in his second season of FIA Formula 3, having raced the year before that in the ATS F3 Cup. A Swedish driver, John Bryant Meisner there, who is making his debut, finished in 18th place, was in the thick of the sort of midfield battles that we had earlier on, all looking to emulate these guys. The Formula 1 drivers of today and of yesteryear have all made their way up through Formula 3 in one way or another. 18 of the 22 drivers on this year's Formula 1 grid have all raced in Formula 3 in one guise or another. Lewis Hamilton being the Euro Series champion back in 2005, Romain Grosjean, Nico Hülkenberg all out there as well. Alain Prost back in 1979, the European Formula 3 champion. Another Australian there, Mitch Gilbert, who is racing with the Full-Tech team, the British team, powered by the Mercedes, 19 years of age, coming through from Formula Renault, like lots of these drivers. And there's Ed Jones, another of the Carlin drivers from the United Arab Emirates, born and lives in Dubai, multiple karting champion in his home country, and the European Formula 3 champion with Team Westtech last year. He's moved across to Carlin. He won the championship last year despite missing the first 2 races of the season. He had 6 wins, and one of Ed Jones's wins in the Euro Open Series last year came here at Silverstone, so it's a circuit where he's gone well in the past. That is Dennis van der Laar, one of a couple of Dutch drivers that are out there. Dennis just missed out on the points in the first race. He had a good scrap with Antonio Giovinazzi, but it delayed him a little bit too much, and he didn't have time then to get into the top 10. He finished in 11th place, just missing out on the points. Jordan King, though, was very much in the points. He finished on the podium in the first race, from just down the road, about half an hour or so away in Leamington Spa. And last year's British F3 champion, 3 wins in last year's British Championship, 2 at the Nürburgring, 1 at Spa, 5 other podium finishes. Also lots of racing in the past in things like Formula Renault, and raced in the MRF Championship over in India a couple of times, was the Delhi champion. So a different career choice, but there's Max Verstappen, who's been brilliant in qualifying and pre-season testing. He topped a couple of pre-season tests at the Hungaroring and at the Red Bull Ring earlier in the month, but got tangled up on the first lap, and damage to the front of his car meant that he was an early retiree when he had qualified 4th on the grid. So the son of Jos Verstappen, multiple European, multiple Belgian and multiple world karting champion, looking for a better race too. There's Antonio Giovinazzi, who is part of the Jagonia I Am with Carlin team, so sub-team within Carlin, the multiple British champions, as the grid now begins to be cleared. And there is number 25, Antonio Fuoco, the Italian driver with Prema Power team, last year's championship winning squad. and he's been very impressive so far. Just missed out on the podium, was in 4th place in the earlier race. There was a point in the middle of the race where he started to reel in Esteban Ocon and Jordan King, but it just faded away a little bit for the last 3 or 4 laps, the Ferrari back driver. And there's the man that won the first race, Tom Blomqvist from Cambridge, and the son of Stig. A very controlled, very mature drive from Tom, who, as I mentioned earlier on, is one of these drivers returning. Lots of rookies here this year. He's one of these drivers returning and looking to get points on the board early doors before these rookies really do get up to speed, because there are some very talented rookies in the field. There's Nicola Latifi in the number 1 car, Prema Power Team entered driver, and he's going to start this race from 6th on the grid. Had a good start in the first race, did the Canadian, who lives in Toronto. He's actually born in Montreal, but lives in Toronto. And got a couple of poles here at Silverstone, did Nicola Latifi, last year in British Formula 3 with Carlin. He's with Prema Power Team now, but in British F3, a couple of poles here and a couple of 5th place finishes at Silverstone. So he's quick around here. And there is Esteban Ocon, who, well, if the star of the show in terms of entertainment was Goddard, then this was the star of the weekend so far, because this young French driver, just 17, backed by the Lotus F1 team, has never raced here before. And he's on pole for this race. He's on pole for the race tomorrow morning as well. And he narrowly missed out on pole for race 1 by just 0.02 of a second. The first qualifying session yesterday, there were 2 20-minute qualifyings. The first one determined the grid for race 1. And then for race 2, it was each driver's fastest time from quali 2. And for tomorrow's race, each driver's second fastest lap time got them the grid order for race 3. And with a time of 1 minute 51.322 seconds, Esteban Ocon was more than 1/10 of a second quicker than Nicholas Latifi, who is going to join him on the front row of the grid. Nicholas was 6th in the first race, on the outside of row number 1. He will start this one, so his best opportunity. Ocon made a good start in the first race, but unfortunately for him, so too did the pole sitter of that race, Tom Blomqvist. So Tom is going to be on the inside of row 2, the race 1 winner. He's going to be starting in 3rd place, right behind Esteban Ocon. We've got Antonio Fuoco, and he starts 4th. Antonio Giovinazzi, another Italian, will be 5th on the grid. And Max Verstappen this time is going to start 6th. So there he is, Esteban Ocon. Very, very impressive. He's come from Formula Renault, and with some changes to the electronics and lots of changes to the Formula 3 cars this year, including paddle shifts on these cars. And paddle shifts is something that Ocon will have been used to from Formula Renault. So that may have helped slightly the transition into these cars, plus the fact, I suppose, that the Formula 3 cars of 2014 are quite a bit different to the cars that were raced last year. So even if you were in the championship last year, maybe some of what you learnt as a team and as a driver has kind of gone out the window this year. So it is a good time to come into the championship as a rookie. 240 brake horsepower for these cars, 0 to 60 miles an hour, or 0 to 100 kilometres an hour in 3 seconds, less than 3 seconds. About 30 brake horsepower more for these cars than last year. Slightly heavier engine, slightly heavier minimum weight of the cars, but with 450 brake horsepower per tonne and the paddle shifts and improved suspension, these cars with the engines now, rather than being based on production engines, very much designed as race engines to meet FIA standards, are real thoroughbred race cars. So we've got 26 cars on the grid. The green flag is waved, ready for the formation lap. It's going to be another race of a maximum time of 35 minutes. And of course, given that he won the first race, Tom Blomqvist will go into this race as the early championship leader, having secured the full 25 points from race 1, with Ocon and King 2nd and 3rd. So on pole position, we've got Esteban Ocon, the French driver for Prema Power Team, powered by Mercedes. 1 minute 51.322 in that qualifying session yesterday, late yesterday afternoon, was 0.138 seconds quicker than Nicola Latifi, the Canadian, also for Prema Power Team, who starts 2nd. And then on row 2, we've got Tom Blomqvist, the race 1 winner for Jagonia IM with Carlin. The British driver starts 3rd. Antonio Fuoco, the Italian, for Prema, starting 4th. Antonio Giovinazzi for Jagonia IM with Carlin is 5th on the grid. Max Verstappen, the Dutch driver for Van Amersfoort Racing, the team for which his father drove back in 1992 when he was the Formula Opel champion, before he then moved into Formula 3 and after that Formula 1. And Max, his son, and his first weekend of car racing, having come from karting, is 6th on the grid for this one. And we'll be interested to see how he gets on. He's certainly got the speed to move forwards. Jordan King, who had a very good start to the race earlier on. He starts in 7th place. Watch for him in the blue Carlin car. He went from 5th to 3rd in the space of 2 corners in the first race and then held on to that podium position. And then we have, starting alongside him on the outside of row number 4, Dennis van der Laar, the Dutch driver, also for Prema Power Team. And on row 5, completing the top 10, Ed Jones for Carlin and Mitch Gilbert, the Australian, for Fortec, with his teammate John Bright Meissner, the Swedish driver, starting 11th. Lucas Auer starts 12th. Felix Rosenqvist back in 13th place on the grid. He was 14th on the grid for the first race. So real disappointment for the KFZ Tyler 24 Muka Motorsport driver. Gustavo Menezes, he's 14th on the grid for Van Amersfoort Racing. Richard Goddard 15th for 3 Bond with T-Sport. 16th on the grid, Felix Sorales, the Puerto Rican, for Team Westec. So he's got work to do in this one. He might be one to watch coming through, Felix, in the blue number 21 machine. And then 17th on the grid, number 14, Felipe Guimarães, the Brazilian. 18th, Jake Dennis, who's gone really well in pre-season testing. Top 6 in 3 of the 4 tests he was. But disappointing weekend so far at Silverstone. Might be his home race, but as he pointed out to me yesterday, it is not somewhere he's raced for 3 years now, 3.5 years. In his first season of car racing, the Intersteps Championship was when he last raced a full Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. 19th on the grid, Riccardo Agostini, another Italian for Euro International. Very experienced team. Alexander Toroil, who was involved in an accident in race 1, will start 20th. Roy Nassani 21st. Hector Hurst 22nd. Sean Galal, who did some good overtaking in the first race, starts 23rd. Jules Simkoviak 24th. Tatiana Calderon, the Colombian, 25th. And Michele Beretta, who was involved in the accident with the Spaniard Alexander Toril, which caused the safety car. He is going to be last on the grid for this one, 26th and last on the grid. Half a second covered the top 9 in that qualifying session yesterday, and the top 14 drivers were covered by just 0.8 of a second. So there he is, the black car, Esteban Ocon on pole position. His first pole in only his 2nd ever Formula 3 race. Latifi is there, 2nd on the grid. And then Blomqvist, watch for him in the yellow car, from 3rd on the grid as the engine notes rise. And the 2nd round of the championship bursts into life. Here they go then. Who's going to get the best start this time? Looks like a good start for Ocon. He's held his head together very nicely there. The TV's going with him. And I think Fuoco's gone through to 3rd. Blomqvist looks like he's dropped a place. Yes, down to 4th. So Antonio Fuoco has gone through into 3rd place, but already looked Tom Blomqvist there in the yellow 31 car, trying to go back around the outside. He has to get off the throttle, and this might cause him a problem coming into the left-hander through the loop and up through Aintree. He's going to come under attack now from Jordan King. He's going to be absolutely wheel-to-wheel with him as they go up the Wellington straight for the first time. Left-hander coming up at the end of the straight, and there might be an opportunity for King to get through. But Blomqvist, look, he's trying to defend here into the left-hander. Look at them, 4th and 5th, wheel-to-wheel. Bit of a lock-up there for Fuoco, but he holds on to the position, and Blomqvist manages to fend off somehow Jordan King for 4th place. So he attacked, it didn't quite work, and he almost cost him a place, but Blomqvist settles back into 4th with Jordan King there in 5th place. And then you got Jones just behind them. Ed Jones is also running well in the top 6. I think Jones has picked up 3 places off the start. Blomqvist coming under more pressure here from Jordan King as they go to Copse Corner. Jones right behind as well. Goes a bit wide coming out of the turn. Plenty of runoff at Copse Corner these days. But be careful not to go off the track too many times. And into the Beckett S's they come for the first time. And Esteban Ocon, he's off like a rocket, isn't he? He's already left them by about 3 or 4 car lengths. I think he's probably more than a second clear already. Everybody, I think, has safely made it through. There's a bit of tetchiness in the first lap, as you probably would expect in the first race of the season. But I think they've all been clean this time. 1.3 seconds for Esteban Ocon, and he hasn't even got to the end of the first lap yet. So the French driver is off like a train, but he's got to look after the tyres. They've got 3 sets of slicks, which they've got to last through qualifying, 2 qualifying sessions and the races. Here's a potential move here from the 19 of Antonio Giovinazzi, the yellow Jagon Ayam with Carlin car. He has a go on the way into Vale, but it didn't quite work for him. Onto the start-finish straight they go. Then the end of lap number 1, and once again it's in the midfield where there's lots of jiggery-pokery going on the run down towards Abbey. And side by side here on the outside it's Felipe Guimarães in the blue car, and he's got Gustavo Menezes trying to get ahead of him, and just behind them in the blue and yellow car, John Bright Meissner, the Fortec. He's trying to get in on the action as well. Guimarães doesn't relent in the end, keeps them just about at bay. And there's Felix Sorales actually coming onto the tail of that group in 15th place. So they're 13th, 14th and 15th now. And one or two others that might have made a good start, not really doing so. Keeping an eye on Goddard, he's not really. I think he's gone backwards a little bit off the start, actually. Everybody's still running. Already from the front to the back of the field, 11 seconds the gap. This little tussle making its way now through Luffield and through towards Woodcut Corner. As they run a little bit wide there onto the curbs and trying to get in on the action as well there. I think is Agostini, the Italian, the back end of the top 20. Look at this, Jake Dennis having a little nibble up the inside of Menezes as they go into Copse Corner. Has he done enough to put the American wide and put him offline into Beckett's? The answer is no, so he'll have to sit pretty, stay behind him. Jake Dennis there in the Racing Steps Foundation car, the red, white and blue machine. Trying desperately to get up the order. First commentated on Jake when he was 8 or 9 years of age, racing 60cc cadet karts, and these days he's taller than me. He's one of the tallest drivers in the field at over 6 foot, I think he is. But desperately trying to get through in these early stages before the rest of the field spreads out in this race. Looks like Sean Galal there still trying to come through. He put off some nice moves in the first race there in the Indonesian, in the yellow number 20 machine, but not be able to get through too much there. It's actually Roy Nissani, his teammate. And they've got Tatiana Calderon, who's 2 from the back as well. There she is, Calderon, who was due to be racing with the Signature, the French team. We've got both cars here this weekend, but haven't got a driver now because she left the team. She's being run by Joe Zeller Racing. Joe's son, Sandro's had to make way. And actually the Zeller car, being run out of the Muka Motorsport awning. Joint enterprise this weekend that's been going on. There's your race leader, though, Esteban Ocon. And look at him go. On this second lap, he's extending his advantage. Latifi trying to go with him. Latifi looking for his first podium, finished 6th in the first race. Antonio Fuoco also looking for his first podium, as he was just outside, finished in 4th place earlier on. More action here. I think that's Sorales. Is it coming through? Is it his teammate Hector Hurst? Yes, it is Sorales, having a go, and successfully so, around the outside of Felix Rosenquist, who's really down in the dumps this weekend. Not what we expected, having gone pretty well in pre-season tests. There's Jake Dennis trying to pick up some more places. He's been involved in the thick of the action this weekend. He's coming under attack now, though, from Roy Nissani in the number 4 machine, Felix Rosenquist's teammate. And Nissani, the 19-year-old from Tel Aviv, in his second year of the Formula 3 racing of the European Formula 3 Championship. Had a best finish of 7th in Brands Hatch last year. 4-point scoring finishes for him. He's got to be careful, though, because there's the Dutch driver, number 15, Jules Simkoviak, not too far behind him. You make a move, you've got to be sure you're going to get through. Look, they're side by side again. Roy Nissani trying to go around the outside here on the way into Stowe. He's too wide. He's off on the marbles. He's going to run wide and lose all of his grip here. So look, he loses 2 or 3 car lengths, and straight through comes Menezes to have a go around the outside. On the way on, there's contact. Oh, it's Goddard. Goddard making contact around the outside. So for the second time in 2 races, he's in dramas. This one's worse, though. This one causes a spin. Goddard trying to go around the outside there. He was trying to pounce because of the slow exit coming out of Stowe Corner, and Roy Nissani was not going to relent, wouldn't let him through, and the contact came. So look, he just about got his nose in front, but Nissani had got the inside line. Goddard tried to keep it around the outside, knowing that he'd have the inside for the next corner, the right-hander, and that was a case of neither one wanting to give way, and contact inevitable. These guys only have a split second to think about this. There's Hector Hurst, number 22, trying to go past Nissani now. Be careful, because we know that Roy is not going to make it easy for you. But it looks like as he goes down the Hanger Straight, he's going to have the inside line. So Hector Hurst learning his trade in this championship. No, Nissani gets his elbows out again and he won't let him through. So Roy Nissani really proving quite difficult to overtake in this race so far. I think we've got Tatiana Calderon just behind. Simkoviak. Toril is looking for his first finish. Beretta's last at the moment. In fact, I think they've switched around. Beretta might be just in front now. Bit of weaving going on here. Jostling. Nissani still won't be passed. And actually, he pulls away from Hector Hurst a little bit on the way through Copse Corner and gives himself a bit of breathing space as they run down through Maggots and down towards the Beckett's S's now. And Calderon, Tatiana Calderon, is almost back onto the tail of Hector Hurst now, but having to watch out because Agostini, the Euro International car, is just behind. There's the Spaniard, Alex Torrell, the 17-year-old. Right, here's a replay. Look to the right there is Goddard. He's trying to go around the outside. He knows there's a right-hander coming up. He actually got his nose in front, but there just wasn't room for two of them. And 50-50, really. I can probably both share the blame for that one. Neither of them wanted to give way. Doesn't seem to have damaged Roy Nassani's car, though, but it has effectively put pay to the Australians' race. The ex-British Formula 3 national class champion. At the head of the field, we still have the rookie, Esteban Ocon, leading 2.4 seconds now. But in the first sector, Nicola Latifi has just set the fastest first sector time of anybody in the race. The gap's 2.5 seconds, give or take. But it's starting to stabilise now. And there's the Italian Fuoco. And then in fourth place, Blomqvist, the highest placed home driver, the highest placed British driver in this race, as of course he was in the first race, which he won. And then you've got King fifth, Verstappen sixth, staying out of trouble this time. And Jones 7th, Giovinazzi 8th, Van der Laar 9th, and in the points, Bright Meister in the points as well. And that's the end, obviously, of the race for Spike Goddard, the Australian. He's been in the walls a bit today. Here's a replay from a different angle. So you got his nose in front there, but he tries to turn in, and Nassani's clinging to the inside line and hasn't really got anywhere to go. That was all because Nassani had gone very wide, trying to overtake Jake Dennis into Copse Corner, got on the marbles, had a slow exit on the run down towards Vale, and then Goddard tried to pounce and tried to take his opportunity, for which I don't think you can blame him. It didn't quite work, I'm afraid. Here they come then, thundering down at around about 240 kilometres an hour, the Hanger Straight. Still not much progress for Felix Rosenqvist. He's 14th. He's actually dropped a place in this race from the start. What's this, Roy Nassani again? This is when he, about a lap later, came under attack both ways. And no, actually, this is Hector Hurst getting through. Those two have been queued up behind him, Agostini and Hurst, for a while now, but Hector Hurst has got through. Good move that from Hector. So that will put the British driver up into 18th place now. There is the race leader, who is still slightly quicker, as you can see from the graphic there, than Latifi, who did set a good first sector on the previous lap, but overall ended up losing another 2/10, more or less, 2/10 of a second. So the gap, 2.6 seconds now, just over. And looking at the lap times of the man in third, he's matching Latifi, but he's not closing up to him. Is Agostini now, who has been passed by Tatiana Calderon, the Colombian driver. So she's having a pretty decent run here. Looks a bit more competitive than she did in the first race. But getting used to the car still, because she did all her testing in the signature car. She's in the Josella car now from Bogota, a 21-year-old who started racing in the Star Mazda series. Did her first season in F3 with the European F3 Open Championship 2 years ago in 2012. 7th in British Formula 3 with Double R Racing, with a couple of fourth place finishes at Spa, and got onto the podium at the Nürburgring. And also went quite well here at Silverstone in one of the races to finish in 5th place last year. Tatiana Calderon, not the biggest British Formula 3 field or the biggest championship that we've ever seen in British F3, but she still acquitted herself well. Has also been competing along with a couple of other drivers in the Florida Winter Series to keep her hand in during the off-season. Oh, drop it. That's Spike Goddard's car. That's the last thing he wants, isn't it? Damage the car, but, well, he can write Saturday off, try and shake it out of his head and come back tomorrow morning for the third race and see what he can do there. But really disappointment for him, because Goddard has definitely shown good speed in the races with the 3 Bond team. There you can see then the race leader looking comfortable, isn't he? Almost have a double take with the helmet combination and the colours of the car. It's almost like watching Romain Grosjean, isn't it? But or maybe we'll be talking about them in the same breath in a few years' time, because Ocon is definitely one to watch. Only the 2 races before this season in Formula 3. One in an older MSV, Motorsport Vision F3 Cup car at Snetterton, just to qualify him to race at Macau at the end of the season, which he, as I said earlier, finished in the top 10 in. So this is only his first proper full weekend of international F3 competition, and he looks comfortable. Very well spoken, quite calm, intelligent young man, Esteban Ocon, very likeable. And certainly hooking things up now. He just missed pole in the first race, in the first qualifying session yesterday, but knew he'd made a couple of slight errors and hadn't quite hooked all 3 sectors up. And he did so in the second qualifying session. And actually his gap for race 3, he's got a bigger advantage. He's 2 tenths ahead of anybody else, was his second fastest lap. There he goes through the Beckett's S's. I watched him through there in qualifying yesterday. He was absolutely mighty, carrying so much speed through the S's, Ocon, but also very, very smooth with it. The car never dancing around. The aerodynamics of these cars, they just glue to the floor, but it takes some commitment, let me tell you, for these drivers to keep it buried through there. That is a very quick section of racetrack. Latifi is starting to be caught a bit now by Antonio Fuoco for second and third positions. Fuoco just took a couple of tenths away from him last time out. In the foreground is Felix Serralles, number 21, trying to pick his way through the order. Having finished 7th in the first race from a better starting position, Felix is trying to pick them off one by one. There is number 16, Gustavo Meneses, from Santa Monica in California. Lives in Solihull now. He's gone from California and Santa Monica to Solihull in Birmingham. So slightly cooler for him. We're hoping to finish in the top 7s in the championship, in the races, get a few podiums, as Meneses says, as he learns his craft. Did the ATS F3 Cup last year with Van Amersfoort Racing, had a couple of wins in that. This is certainly his biggest challenge yet, Meneses. He's doing okay in 15th place in the middle of the field, just behind Felix Rosenqvist, last year's 11-time race winner. And there you can see this gap may be continuing to dwindle between Latifi and that man, number 25, Antonio Fuoco, who, yes, matched the time. The lap before he was 2 tenths quicker. On that lap, he basically matched Latifi's time. So it's 8 tenths of a second now is all that's the difference between them. Prema Power Team, of course, massively successful team, the Italian squad, winning the championship last year, but they've also won Formula Renault Euro Cups. In fact, they won the Formula Renault 2.0 Euro Cup with Kamui Kobayashi, the Formula 1 driver, in 2005. They've run Ryan Briscoe in the past as well to the F3 Euro Series title. Daniel Huncadea, who's moved up to DTM, a couple of years ago won the F3 Open Championship with the team, and last year they won the Formula Renault Alps Championship, which used to be the Swiss Championship with Fuoco, and their drivers also finished 2nd and 3rd in that championship. So it's a very strong team, Prema Power Team. And there's their other man at the head of the field, going through to start another lap and edging away all the time. Very consistent lap times from him. 1 minute 52.834 last time through. By a couple of hundreds, Latifi was slightly quicker on that lap, but Latifi then pulling away from the 3rd place man, Fuoco. So I think he's been spurred on here. And look at this battle starting to develop again between the 2 British drivers for 4th and 5th positions. Blomqvist up against King here, 2 equally experienced, equally quick drivers. And Blomqvist, of course, the championship leader, having won the first race of the season a couple of hours ago. But you get the feeling that Blomqvist is going to have his work cut out for the second half of the race here, because Jordan King pulls out of the slipstream, looks around the outside for Brooklands. That won't happen. He's just trying to show his nose and put Blomqvist under pressure here as they go into the right-hander through Luffield. Got a bumpy bit of track that, and accelerate out. They'll be flat out through the right-hander at Woodcut Corner and onto the National Pit Straight down towards one of the world's most famous corners, Copse Corner. They've got to keep their foot buried through there. And difficult to overtake there because they're not braking, so you just got to hang on to the driver ahead. Blomqvist quicker through there, isn't he, and pulling away. And Verstappen is coming into the mix as well now in 6th place. He's had a terrific run going through Copse Corner. So Max Verstappen coming into the mix here. 20 years after his father Jos made the move to Formula 1 back in 1994. Jos Verstappen debuted at the Brazilian Grand Prix, where he was the teammate to some fella called Michael Schumacher. And in the Brazilian Grand Prix debut for Jos Verstappen, it went a bit like Max Verstappen's F3 debut, because he had a collision and dropped out of the race when he was battling for 3rd with Eddie Irvine. Through out of Club then, over the start-finish straight down towards Abbey Corner comes the race leader, 2nd and 3rd. And having been right on the tail of Blomqvist at the start of that lap, Jordan King's fallen away again now and almost into the clutches of Verstappen. Personal best lap time again for Antonio Fuoco in 3rd place, just at a 1:52.7, but he's slightly slower still by just about a tenth of a second than Latifi. So Latifi's still commanding in that second position. He's not been caught by third, but he's also beginning to fall away even further now from this man, the race leader, who is just over 3 seconds clear now. And he looks like he's on a pair of rails, doesn't he? Just in the zone here, keeping his concentration up, which in itself is a challenge. He's just got to keep driving, doing his own thing, responding to the amount of grip that he has. The car's going to get lighter and lighter as the race goes on, but the tyres are obviously going to wear a little bit. But his lap times are so consistent. I think the last 4 or 5 laps now have all been within a tenth or so of each other. It's in 152.8s and 152.9s. So Ocon leads, Latifi is second, Fuoco is third, Blomqvist is fourth, King is fifth, Verstappen sixth. That means we've got 3 rookies in the top 6. Ocon the leader, Fuoco in third, and Verstappen in 6th place. Ed Jones is 7th. And then we've got Antonio Giovinazzi running in 8th place, Dennis van der Laar in 9th, and John Bryant Meissner, the Swedish driver, in 10th place. Gomeres is 11th, Lucas Au 12th, Sorales 13th, Rosenquist stuck in 14th, Menezes 15th, Gilbert 16th, Dennis is 17th, Calderon's just moved up to 18th, Hector Hurst down to the 19th, so we didn't see it, but there's been a change between Calderon and Hurst. And then Torrell 20th, Beretta 21st, Galal 22nd, Nisani 23rd, Agostini 24th. Drive-through penalty for car number 7, Riccardo Agostini. And a drive-through penalty for car number 15, which is Jules Simkoviak. So they're both getting drive-through penalties. It doesn't say why, but it may well be. I don't think it's going to be for the start of the race, because we're quite a way into it now. I would imagine it's for exceeding the track limits and running off over the white lines too frequently. You can go over the white lines as long as there's a curb there, but if you start running too frequently off the circuit where there is no curb, oh, there you go, you'll be in dramas, and that's exactly what's happened. So, yeah, too wide there, and all 4 wheels off. They might let you off once, but they're unlikely to let you off more than a couple of times, and that's what the drive-through penalty is for. So Agostini at the back anyway, serving a drive-through, or he will be, and the other driver being Simkoviak, is also not too far up the order. You can see big fun fair, big carnival atmosphere at Silverstone. Lots for the family to do here, and good crowds here this weekend. Formula 3 supporting the World Endurance Championship, their first round, with, of course, all the stars of Le Mans and World Endurance Racing here. And Mark Webber making his debut for Porsche, no doubt pulling them in, because he's always been a big favourite of the crowds here at Silverstone. So there is Mitch Gilbert, the Full-Tech car, the famous red and white colours of the multiple Formula Renault UK champions. And the Australian at the moment is in 16th place. And there is Gustavo Menezes for the Dutch team, Van Amersfoort Racing, who've been going since 1975, so nearly 40 years as a race team for Van Amersfoort, whose highest placed driver in this race is Max Verstappen, running currently in 6th place. There's Felix Sorales at the top of this group. There is Rosenqvist, Felix Rosenqvist in 14th place, and just not having the pace this weekend for whatever reason. I have to say, though, it's not just Felix, the whole team, Muka Motorsport, not having their best ever weekend here. Lucas Auer is only 12th, and Roy Nissani's a bit further down the order as well, so I don't think we can necessarily say it's all down to the driver. Maybe the team has just not quite found the power or the setup for this weekend. It's not quite working for them. The good news is that after this weekend, there's still another 30 races to go, so all is not yet lost. And he's just got to try and pick up a few points if he can, but it is looking unlikely in this race for the Swedish driver. And few would have put money on Rosenqvist having no points at the end of the first 2 races of the season. That's the way it's looking like it might go. And there is a man in the final points-paying position, number 10, the blue and yellow machine of John Bryant Messner. That is also a Full-Tech car, but not in the regular colours of what is a local team, Full-Tech, based in Daventry, Northampton's Richard Dutton's team, managed by Russell Dixon. 7 times Formula Renault UK champions, 6 podiums in 2013 in Formula 3. Looking for their first FIA F3 Euro win this season. Bryant Messner doing a good job to hold on to the point in 10th place at the moment from Gomeres, who's only half a second behind him. And doing an exceptional job is this man. Ocon is 3.2 seconds clear. and going a bit quicker now than he did at the start of the race. 1 minute 52.6 as the fuel load comes down. Really smooth start from him. He's not massively quicker than anybody else out there. And he got probably nearly half the gap that he got on the first lap of the race. We just got his head down. But he's just chipping away. 10th here, a 10th there, and just destroying the field. Latifi now, well, he's not given up. Having said all that, as Ocon goes through, it's actually not his best lap of the race at all. The one before that was very good. This one was 6/10 slower. So for that lap, he lost 4/10 to Latifi. So maybe it's not all over yet. Look at this. Lots of weaving and action going on here in this battle a little bit further down the field. You got Rosenqvist onto the tail of Menezes, and at the back of that trio then, you've got Mitch Gilbert in the Fortec car. The Australian, who was 23rd in this championship last year, looking to pick up some points. So 14th, 15th and 16th. Menezes actually has got in front of Rosenqvist since the last time we saw them. So 13th on the grid, down to 15th now for Rosenqvist. He's going backwards in this race, and Mitch Gilbert not too far behind him either. And you've got Jake Dennis, who's the 4th best rookie at the moment, in 17th place. Best rookies. There's also an award for the best rookie at the end of the season this year. Ocon finished 2nd in the first race, was the top rookie. Fuoco was 4th in race 1, was the 2nd best rookie, and Jake Dennis, even though he was down in 17th, was the 3rd best rookie in race number 1. Let's have a look at a replay then, and this is going to be a lock-up, isn't it, from Tatiana Calderon. No, sorry, from Sean Galal, the Indonesian driver, as he tried to chase down Michele Beretta in the dark blue Euro International car. So there's Mitch Gilbert pushing on, see what he can do. He's an Australian, but he was born in Kuala Lumpur. Lives in Twickenham these days. Big fan of Lewis Hamilton and of Michael Schumacher. Came up through Formula Renault UK. His first season of car racing in 2010, which he also raced with Fortec. So he's got a long association with the team. But doesn't look like he's going to pick up any points in this race there in 16th position. He had a pretty decent effort in the first race in 13th. Here's Sean Galal, who pulled off some good moves in race 1, and he pulls off another one there. Simple slipstreaming and out-braking manoeuvre into Stowe Corner at the end of the Hanger Straight, but he does make his way through to pick up what will be 20th place. So Galal is going rather well. 17 years of age, from Jakarta, I believe living in Bath these days. Another Lewis Hamilton fan. Oh, going very wide there was Antonio Fuoco in 3rd place as he came out of club and onto the start-finish straight. Here's the battle for 4th. Still, Blomqvist cannot shake off King. King has only really had one half chance to get past his fellow British driver. That was a few laps ago at the end of the Wellington Straight going into Brooklands, but it was only really half a chance because Blomqvist always seemed to have the inside line covered. Here's Felix Rosenqvist battling away with Mitch Gilbert here, trying not to lose any more places. Gilbert's right with him, and then Jake Dennis is coming into the fray as well. So those three making their way through into Luffield with very little to choose between them. But they are all out of the points at the moment in 15th, 16th and 17th positions respectively, and quite a long way down now on Menezes. He's about 3 seconds up the road already on his way down through Maggots and into Beckett's through the S's. But nevertheless, a good little scrap going on here between these three. But Felix Rosenqvist has had a good run through Copse, Maggots and Beckett's, and has just given himself a bit of breathing space at the moment. There's Lucas Auer in the back of the picture there. Felix Rosenqvist's teammates at Peter Muka's team, Muka Motorsport. He's currently in 12th place. He's trying to catch Guimarães. He's in 11th, and then at the front of the picture, still John Bryant Meisner, the Swedish driver, still hanging on to the final points-paying position. Another one that's come through the Formula Renault ranks, first back home in Sweden, then the Euro Cup, John Bryant Meisner, and then ATS Formula 3. Almost raced in British Formula 3 a couple of years ago after tests with a few top teams like Carling and T-Sport and RR, but opted for the ATS F3 Cup in the end, which he then continued in last year and finished in 5th place. So decent driver is the Swede. The gap from first to second steadied at 3.2 seconds. Ocon to Latifi. Fuoco is a couple of seconds further back in 3rd. Then there's this battle for 4th place. And there is literally nothing between them, is that? Blomqvist and King selling almost identical lap times, and Verstappen in that slightly frustrating position of almost being in touch, almost being in a position to pounce, but can't quite get that extra car length that he needs closer to them. More action here. That's Roy Nazzardi, who's been involved in his fair amount of action so far this weekend. He's got Riccardo Agostini, the Italian, trying to get past him. This is the battle for 22nd position. And Agostini gets a better exit through Chapel Curve onto the Hanger straight. So now he should pick up a toe and he should be able to move. He's going to have to go the long route, though, because Nissani's got the inside line covered. He's trying to brave it out. Can he get through? And the answer is, into Brooklands at the end of the Wellington straight, no, is the answer. Nissani again grits his teeth. And really determined driving we've seen so far from Nissani. That was at the end of the Wellington straight into Brooklands. This is coming out through now onto the National Pit Straight. I don't think there'll be an opportunity at Copse, so he might have to wait now until he does get onto the Hanger straight. Or maybe not. He's having a go. He's weaving this way, then that. But again, Nissani knows that unless he makes a mistake, there'll be no way through at Copse corner. Here's a replay of just how close it got between these two drivers. Agostini, who celebrates his 20th birthday tomorrow from Padova in Italy, being frustrated by the Israeli driver so far. Agostini tested a Ferrari Formula 1 car as his prize for winning the Italian F3 rookie title a couple of years ago. And this year, the winner of this championship, the FIA Formula 3 European Championship, will receive a test with the Ferrari Formula 1 team. So a fantastic opportunity for whoever wins the championship in 6 months' time. Maybe it'll be that man at the front of the picture, Tom Blomqvist. Terrific start to the season for him so far. First in race 1, 4th here. And again, I think he's just edged away now, hasn't he, from Jordan King. Last time around, 153.3 for Blomqvist, almost exactly the same time for King. I think on this lap, he looks to have perhaps pulled another tenth of a second or so. Verstappen is still 6 behind them. And then nearly 6 seconds back now is Ed Jones running in 7th place. Giovinazzi 8th, Van der Laar is 9th, Bright Meissner still in 10th place, but only hanging on to that last championship point by 0.8 of a second. Guimaraes and Lucas Auer gunning for him now, particularly Guimaraes, who's just set his personal best lap time and taken another 0.1 of a second out of Brian Meissner. So potentially we're going to have another scrap here for 10th place as we go into the last couple of laps of the race. 4th, 5th and 6th then you're looking at. Blomqvist glance into the mirrors for King, just checking the gap back to Verstappen, but Verstappen looks like he's on a good lap here as well. And we're now going to get a replay of Jordan King running wide. Cars 15 and 8 it comes up on the screen, which is 8 is Beretta and 15 is Simkoviat. Under investigation will be reported to the stewards. So that's going to possibly affect things later on after the provisional results come out. So Jordan King's got to be careful not to run off the circuit too many times. Couple of laps to go now in this race, and look, Verstappen's got his bit between the teeth here. He's been winding things up, and the rookie is going for it. He's on the tail of Jordan King here at the start of this lap. It's allowed Blomqvist to just leave them behind. Oh, and off has gone Hector Hurst. Hector Hurst with a big-looking crash there as the Team Westtech driver gone off into the tyre barrier. He's okay. He's getting out of the car. What happened? Oh, just caught the back end of it there, but that was a pretty high-speed spin. I think that's at Chapel. It looks like it might be at Chapel. He's gone off. And let's have a look. Was there contact? No. Oh, that's Serrales now we're looking at. This is his teammate. So that's Serrales coming under attack then from Menezes. But they just about, I think, avoided contact. And now Verstappen is in front of Jordan King. Look, he's got through while we were looking at that. Jordan King's trying to get the place back. So Verstappen, while we're looking at the replays, has gone through to 4th place now with Jordan King back in 5th position trying to get the place back. Look how far up the field Blomqvist is all of a sudden. He's probably 3 seconds clear of them because they've been battling so hard. So Verstappen having a much better race here, up into 5th position. They're about to go down towards the yellow flag zone. There's Roy Nazzardi still having this battle with Agostini. Agostini, the Italian driver, sick to death, I would think, at staring at the rear wing and the exhaust of the Israeli's car. But Roy has not put a wheel wrong and has put some pretty hard, but I think fair defending up for most of this race, which will please the team. He's not giving it up too easy. So we're on to the last lap of the race. Ocon, Latifi and Fuoco go through. Still 3.3 seconds the advantage for the race leader as he starts his final run around the Silverstone circuit here. then Blomqvist, Verstappen now, of course, and then King rounding out the top 6. Big gap back to Jones and Giovinazzi in 7th and 8th. And there is Gustavo Menezes coming under more pressure here. And just behind them, we've got Felix Rosenqvist still in 15th place. Is there going to be a change here between them or not? Menezes hanging on to the place for the time being. Seralis trying to get through, but also trying to defend at the same time from Felix Rosenqvist. Seralis in 14th has lost that place. They were the other way around last time we saw them. Seralis has dropped to 14th with Menezes up to 14th. And now Felix Rosenqvist is finding a gap, prizing the door open. And onto the hanger straight he goes. It looks like he's going to pick up a place, but it will be of little comfort to him. Not the result he would have expected coming into this weekend. Rosenqvist try. Is he going to succeed? Through he goes. Yes, he's made it through into Brooklands Corner, halfway around the final lap of the race. But Felix Rosenqvist still a long, long way from scoring any points. This final lap of the race, way out wide goes Felix Seralis. So that might allow Mitch Gilbert in 16th place to try and close up to him in the second half of this lap. I don't think he'll be close enough to attack into Cobbs, but he might have a chance once they get down to the Beckett Esses and down for the final time the hanger straight, which is probably where the race leader is by now. He's done it. He's out of Stoke Corner. Look, here he comes. An exemplary drive this has been from Esteban Ocon. He is almost home and dry, and he has never, ever once looked like being uncomfortable or looked like making a mistake or looked under pressure. He takes the checkered flag, only his second ever race in the FIA Formula 3 European Championship, and he's already a race winner. What a talent to watch for. Latifi with a very good drive in second, and a debut podium for another rookie. Antonio Fuoco comes home, the Italian, in 3rd place. Blomqvist 4th, pretty comfortable 4th in the end. Verstappen with a good move late on. Well, we think it was a good move, didn't quite catch it to get 5th place. King in 6th. I think we'll be reasonably pleased that the way it's gone so far for him, if not ecstatic. And then Giovinazzi was 8th, Van der Laan 9th, and Bryant Meissner in 10th place. Guamari's 11th, our 12th over the line. Menezes 13th. Rosenqvist, we know, got up to 14th ahead of Seralis on that last lap, with Gilbert 16th, Dennis 17th, Calderon having a better showing here in 18th place. Toril, the Spaniard, finishes his first race, having had the DNF in race 1. He's 19th. Galal is 20th. Beretta's crossed the line in 21st. And then which of the two is going to come through in 22nd? Nizani or Agostini? And the answer is Nizani. Fended off Agostini. Simkoviak 24th. There was Hector Hurst, who we saw getting out of the car, which was good to see, but frustration for Hector Hurst that he dropped out at that big crash with just a couple of laps to go. There's confirmation of the results then after 18 laps of the race. So fantastic stuff here from the second round of the FIA Formula 3 European Championship. There's one more race to come, of course, this weekend as well. 3 races at all events, and they're very early tomorrow. 9:05 we come on air local time. So we've had 2 races and we've had 2 different winners. Tom Blomqvist, Esteban Ocon and Jordan King were the top 3 in the first race. Ocon wins this one. Latifi in second, and Fuoco coming home in 3rd position in the second race of the weekend, the second race of the year. Most drivers making it home. Hector Hurst having that late crash, dropping out of the race. So it's going to be another 35-minute race to come tomorrow. Very early on. There's a question mark over the weather tomorrow as well. We've had warmish, a little bit breezy conditions today, but there may well be some rain tomorrow. There's a chance anyway. And that will throw things very much into the mix, won't it? Because we've had dry qualifying, dry free practice. Most of these drivers, a lot of these drivers, not raced at Silverstone, and certainly not in the wetter conditions before. So if there were to be any rain, and maybe we'll believe it when we see it because it's got its own little microclimate here, then we will perhaps look to some of the more experienced drivers in F3, the likes of Blomqvist, the likes of King, to see what they can do. But impressive stuff so far for the rookies. Ocon, the winner, Fuoco in 3rd, and Verstappen in 5th, the top 3 rookies. Dennis was the 4th best rookie in 17th, Beretta 21st, and Jules Simkoviak finished the race in 24th place.
on where he's left off here. Well, I tell you what, he's starting that one from pole position, so there is every opportunity for him to do just the same.
Yeah, Esteban Ocon for tomorrow morning's race, as you say, starts from pole position alongside Antonio Fuoco. So it's the fight of the rookies from the front row. Third place will start Tom Blomqvist. Fourth place, it'll be Nick Latifi, who have clearly been both in the mix as well within the top four. And on the third row, Max Verstappen again and Antonio Giovinazzi, the usual kind of protagonists then at the pointy end of the field. A fabulous race on offer early tomorrow morning. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be around to see it, but you will, Bruce.
I'll be here. I see no reason to go anywhere else. But no, and also, I mean, there's just so much appealing about this meeting. And with the European Le Mans Series just increasing the quality and the quantity of its entry, it's great to see that later this afternoon. And then, of course, the big one tomorrow morning. And how close was that in qualifying between Porsche, Toyota and Audi? Anytime you have three